Hey, what's up everybody? It's Rutech. Today we'll be talking about the best $700 balanced gaming PC. Now you might be wondering what I mean by balance. I mean that with this PC, I balanced out the budget of the computer a bit more than usual. For example, in most of my mid-range cost PC builds, I put a 1600 AF processor since it's cheap and gets the job done, but the thing is, it's an older chip that may cause problems down the road. And the reason I do this is to save an extra $40 to $50 to spend on a better graphics card. Now I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this, but it does leave the CPU behind in order to make room for a stronger graphics card. Now if you were to upgrade said PC, you would likely not only need to get a new graphics card, but also a new CPU, which means more money spent. With the PC I'm talking about today, since enough money is going towards the CPU, you won't really ever have to worry about upgrading it alongside upgrading the graphics card in the future. Also, this is the PC that I will be building and uploading a video on in 2 to 3 weeks, so be sure to stay subscribed or stay tuned for that. So enough chat, I don't want to waste any more time, let's talk about the parts, but before we do, I would really appreciate it if you checked out my channel. I post PC tech videos among other things. Also, if you have any comments or questions as the video goes along, be sure to drop a comment. If you like the video, drop a like, and if you enjoy the content that you're seeing, drop a sub. Really helps out the channel. So let's get started by talking about the CPU. I chose the AMD Ryzen 5 3600. So why this chip? Well, for starters, it's a 3rd gen Ryzen CPU, meaning that it's a newer chip that has the Zen 2 7nm architecture. Now I know a lot of you are going to be wondering why I chose the 3600 over the 3300X, and it's simply because the 3300X is not available just yet, and unfortunately no one can really forecast when it'll be readily available for its MSRP price, especially due to the pandemic, which is just why the 3600 is a safe choice. And hey, the 3600 is a fantastic CPU, and you won't really find a very big and significant difference in performance comparing it to the 3300X regardless. Anyway, the 3600 has a core clock of 3.6 GHz, a boost clock of 4.2 GHz, 6 cores, 12 threads, and is overclockable. It also comes with a stock cooler, so no need to grab a new one unless you plan on doing some crazy overclocking. Overall, a very solid choice for the CPU. You honestly can't find a single bad review on this processor, so I highly recommend it. Next up, the motherboard. I chose the MSI B450 Tomahawk Max. Don't let the fact that this motherboard is B450 worry you. This board does ship 3rd generation ready. So this motherboard is a pretty popular one for gamers as it has some great capabilities and specs like overclocking, a good VRM, 4 RAM slots with a max speed of DDR4 4133 MHz, and a max RAM capacity of 64 GB. It's also RGB, so you can of course spice up your build using this board's integrated lighting capabilities. It also has a big variety of ports on the rear I/O, so if you plan on having a lot of wired connected devices, not to worry, the MSI B450 Tomahawk Max is fully capable. Not much else to say about this motherboard. I personally have an MSI board in my build, and it has been nothing but great, so I really trust MSI with making great boards. Next up, the RAM. I chose the Team T-Force Delta RGB 16GB, so 2 sticks of 8GB, DDR4 3200 MHz RAM. So now you're probably wondering why it's RGB. Well, like I said, this will be the build that I will be making in August. All of these parts I have ordered, and I'm currently in the process of getting everything ready for filming, editing, script, etc. So of course I want the build to look great, so that's why I chose an RGB set of RAM. Anyway, it's 3200 MHz, which is a perfect speed to pair with our CPU, and will provide a significant speed difference versus using something like 2400 or 3000 MHz RAM, for example. In addition, I used this exact RAM in a build commission that I did for a friend, and it runs great, so this is no doubt a great choice. Also, 16 GB of RAM is the perfect amount for 2020 gaming. You really won't have to worry about upgrading for a good handful of years. Next up, the storage. Now with storage, you can seriously choose any device you'd like, but I'm recommending the Western Digital Caviar Blue 500GB SSD. With 500GB, you have more than enough storage for a decently sizable game library as well as other utilities, programs, and media. Obviously, it's super easy and cheap to upgrade storage, so 500GB is a great starting point. Also, it's an SSD, so it's significantly faster than a hard drive and will provide fast loading times for pretty much everything. And now for the part you've probably been waiting to hear about, the graphics card. I chose the RX 580, the 1080p King. Now, just as a reminder, because we've balanced out the budget and went with the Ryzen 3600 CPU, it leaves less room to get a more powerful graphics card. The thing is though, this shouldn't matter at all if you have a 1080p monitor. The RX 580 pretty much delivers over 60 frames per second in all games at 1080p resolution with ultra settings. Now, since I will be building this, I will have fully accurate benchmarks for this build fully available within, I would say, about 2 to 3 weeks, so be sure to subscribe to hear about them. I'll be testing the typical range of games like Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, Battlefield, Battlefront, etc. If you have any game recommendations that you want me to benchmark, be sure to drop a comment below. Next on the list, we have the case. I chose the elegant and beautiful NZXT H510. This is a super popular choice and for good reasoning. It's super easy to configure, has a lot of space, cable management options and tools, and of course is super good looking. I personally have always been a fan of white themed PC builds, and it's always been my dream to have a white NZXT H510 build. But if this isn't the type of case that is down your alleyway, not to worry, you can pretty much choose any PC case that you'd like, just ensure that it is labeled ATX. If you're wondering how this build will appear, once again, the build will be complete in about 2 to 3 weeks and will be uploaded to this channel, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And finally, the power supply. For the power supply, I chose the EVGA BR 500 watt ATX bronze certified power supply. 500 watts is absolutely enough for this build and for whatever upgrades you may want in the future. Obviously, you're probably going to want to move past the RX 580 or upgrade the storage at some point if you get a higher resolution monitor or something, and 500 watts of 80 plus bronze certified power supports that. I've been using this exact power supply for just about 2 years now and have had absolutely zero problems. So that is all for the specs of this build. Now, as for the video of me building it, I really could use some suggestions, so if you have any specific requests or ideas for the video, be sure to let me know in the comments. It's my first time doing one of these, so input is greatly appreciated. Seriously guys, any suggestions, any ideas, I'll take them all. Keep in mind that this channel was made for you guys, so don't be afraid to let me know if you want something specific covered on the video. For example, installation of the CPU, you're scared of doing a certain task, whatever it is, drop a comment below and I will be sure to cover it in the video. So that will do it for this video. If you plan on building this or have built it, let me know in the comment section below, as I'm sure the community would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Have any comments or questions, drop a comment below and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. And if you enjoy the content that you're seeing, drop a sub. And once again, be sure to stay tuned. I will be building this PC in roughly 2 to 3 weeks. Thanks for watching. Peace out.